Welcome to Studio 771 Uncensored. This is your host, Charles Barjon. Before we start, I gotta say, forgive me real quick. We actually had to do an office change. Um, those who have been listening and watching Studio 771 for the past 4 years know that we've been blessed enough to have an office in Higgins Hall here at Southern University. But recently, we had to make some adjustments. So we're live from my room. We're going to be shifting to a Zoom platform. I hope, God willing, our co-hosts will continue and they'll come onto these Zooms. But until then, we're going to just iron this out um, solo on a solo mission like we used to do back in 2018. No problem. We're here to relay to you all some truth and some information and to keep you up to date. Um, Today, we want to talk primarily about Jelani Day and the tragedy that is Jelani Day. But before I get there, I want to briefly touch on some things that are happening here in Baton Rouge, here at Southern University. The first thing is last night we witnessed there was a shooting here on the bluff. Luckily, it was two non-students who were involved in this altercation. No Jaguar was injured, but we still do pray and we still do send our thoughts over to these injured folks. And it just reminds us, our campus security has to be down packed, and we have to be able to feel safe here on our own campus. And I know SUPD, they do a great job. They really do stress being safe, and they stress the importance of using the Jag Safe app. So anybody who's out there, any Jaguar, anyone who's living here on the bluff here in Baton Rouge, remember just to be safe, to be vigilant, be aware of your surroundings because you do not know who is on our campus. Our campus is in the middle of the community. It's a university. That's what universities are for. They're for the upliftment of the community. So here in Scotlandville, we just have to be vigilant and be aware of our surroundings at all times. But with that being said, I don't want to have a long and drawn out podcast. We can keep it short and simple. I want to talk about Jelani Day. And before I do, I want to acknowledge that there has been some misinformation about Jelani Day. There's been a lot of, and excuse the background noise, I'm really getting used to not being in the studio and having a quiet space to do this show, but bear with me. There's been a lot of misinformation spread about Jelani Day. I remember before there were reports that Jelani Day had no brain in his head, that his organs were stolen and certain things were being spread about Jelani Day. So today I made sure just to write a couple notes down here, just so we have some factual information. I don't want it to just be misinformation and be a continued wave of misinformation because that does nothing for us. We want to spread the truth. Let me get the Lion of Judah in there. So let's just start out. Jelani Day, and I'm getting this all from NBC Chicago. I just went online and typed in Jelani Day, and I looked for a source that I believed would be credible. I don't know if you all know the crap test. You want to go through like creditable, the author who wrote the article and all this. So I chose NBC. They're a recognized media source. So according to NBC, Jelani Day was an Illinois State University grad student who disappeared on August 24th. Mind you, it is now October 15th. He disappeared August 24th and was reported missing soon after by his family and professor. Assuming the professor is his professor at Illinois State. His car was found 2 days later. So on the 26th of August, we see that his car was actually found 2 days later in a wooded area near where his body was ultimately discovered in the Illinois River, under what police have said were unusual circumstances. And before I move on to my next bullet point on this, I find this very interesting because when I was researching this Jelani Day case, I actually read in some parts that they found his vehicle in like an abandoned parking lot type situation. So I'm not sure what they mean by a wooded area, because I did read something contrary within the same article about there being some sort of it being left at a parking lot. But perhaps that's just due to my human error and not understanding the author of this article. But as we go on with the next quote from this article, it says no organs were missing. and so no organs were missing. They do not want to stray from off from facts, which is like pretty much what I said, because a lot of people were saying, oh, his brain was missing and this. I mean, I was quick with it. I wrote a rhyme to it. I said, in Jelani Day got no brain in his head. All I'm seeing is red. Will I see my bed tonight if I survive another day? Because it, as a black man, it just really, it hurts me when I see it. Just someone who looks like me in the media always dead. It doesn't sit right with me. But yeah, no organs were missing. The statement read there were contradicting facts from the first preliminary autopsy compared to the second independent autopsy. But this is not a case of organ harvesting, however. His mom says, my son did not put himself in a river. So, and this is kind of what social media is alluding to. And I apologize again if I'm being very sporadic here, but without a co-host, you're just gonna get my mind. What's interesting about this though is you see social media has really been pushing the idea that Jelani Day was murdered for his organs. And this is something that actually gets brought up a lot within social media. And as we like to say, Black Twitter or Black Instagram or just that Black corner of social media, because there's often the case is that many young Black people go missing, and many of the times they, like, though, for Black women who go missing, their uteruses go missing, or people's eyes, their hearts, their livers. So it wouldn't be a foreign concept or idea to say that he was murdered and his organs were taken from his body. Now, I'm not saying that is truth. What I'm doing is relaying to you the reality of the matter. And we have to keep in mind that to be Black in America right now isn't exactly, what can I say? It's not the most essential feeling. I don't know how to put it. You have to always be looking behind your back and making sure you're aware of your surroundings. So like I was saying before about the shooting that took place here at Southern University, even in life, imagine those of you who are not Black, for example, you're not listening to this, and say you're only vigilant when you perceive you're in a bad neighborhood. Imagine having that feeling but all the time. That is to be Black in America, because you have to always be vigilant as a Black person in this country. You cannot for 1 second let your guard down. You never know what could happen to you, especially as a Black man in America, especially. And I'm not getting on here to talk rhetoric and be a revolutionary, because I don't have to try hard to be a revolutionary. I just, my fruits and my works will show what I do. But the point is, like his mother said, however, my son did not put himself in a river. This reeks eerily and very traumatically of our beloved brother Emmett Till. I mean, we all know the story of Emmett Till. He too was found in a river with body parts missing. And this is now 2021, and we're still seeing this case. Let me do a quick Google search and let's see the exact date in which Emmett Till, this went down. He died 1955. According to the internet, he died August 28th, 1955. And it's now 2021. And this social condition and this insanity is continuing. And I call it insanity because that is exactly what it is. It's insanity. By definition, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting a different result. How are we as Black people going to take us ourselves out of this insanity, out of the loop of young Black men and women going missing, being killed by the police, being killed by each other, by all these adversities and iniquities that affect my people, even though everybody's my people, but Black people and specifically. Why is it that this is the case? Jelani Day, back to him. When I heard of this story, it hurt my heart. My heart broke. maybe 7 times in a row to pieces. You can just walk through it. That's how broken my heart is at this point. You can walk through it because I grew up. Let me put it this way. I grew up in an era where I was able to witness the gradual increase of racial tension in America. And that's just within a short 21-year span of living, because we know that oppression in America, at least, has gone on for 400 plus years, more like 500, you know. But for some reason, within this set 21 years in which I have lived on this earth, you know, from Bush to Obama to Trump to Biden, and really, if we want to separate it through presidencies, we've seen a very, very, very gradual and slow rise of racial tension. Even though the tension has always been there, it's always going to be there. It's an undertone of America. I mean, it's a country that's built off of the backs of people who have been raped and killed and burned alive and had their history destroyed, and all types of atrocity and evilness and wickedness has America been built upon. So you're not going to ever really rid of the tension, or you can say that awkwardness, you know, between races. But what we can't rid of is the senseless killings of minority people, especially Black people, especially those people who are descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. For some reason, in America, we are targeted and we are the ones being killed. Not too long ago, I forget what the woman's name was, and I'm not being disrespectful to her. It's a really sad story, and may God bless her soul. But a white woman went missing, and they were able to find her instantly. They were able to locate certain things. It was on the news, in the media. But anytime a person of color, and I must say in specific, you should see my hands, in specific, a Black person goes missing, it's not like that. We've had children who have been missing for years who haven't been found. Teenagers, moms, uncles, grandfathers missing. We know that I mean, I won't cut hope out for people, but we know that they may not be living anymore. But to have that peace, to be able to bury your loved one, we don't get that in our community. We rarely get that, yet alone to be, to have the it shouldn't even be called a privilege, but it really is the privilege to have your own autopsy, to see what happened to that loved one. I'm happy that, at least I'm happy that Jelani Day's mother was able to provide a second autopsy and to get a second viewing, because too often in private autopsies done by the state or whoever is in control, things aren't mentioned, or we don't learn the full story. And then the person is victimized and characterized and judged, and they're no longer alive to even defend themselves. So I want to know what happened with Jelani Day. I have one last quote here from it. And it says, the coroner reported the body was discovered on September 4th. Like I said, it's now October 15th, floating near the south bank of the Illinois River, approximately 1/4 mile east of the Illinois Route 251 bridge, sorry, excuse me. And I'm at lost of words, because it's something that happens so often in America. What more could I say? Possibly. But I'm going to say more because the reason I wanted to speak about this story in specific is because it doesn't follow the general trend of what we can associate with, Black death in America within the last, let's say, 40 years. It doesn't follow the trend of Black death in America within the last 30, 40 years. And I'm actually going to minimize that to 20 years. Because recently we've seen Black death in America as being related to the police and law enforcement. And as they say in official documents, peace officers. It's usually been with these peace officers, these law enforcement people, sheriffs, deputies. They have been the ones killing Black people in a trend. It's been the theme in America recently. Like they just must kill Black people every 2 years. just to incite some type of mass hysteria. But with the case of Jelani Day, it's different. Jelani Day is a Black man in the media right now in the news who wasn't killed by the police officers, but so happens to have gone missing and to be found without his organs. What is this atrocity? What is this reality that we now see within these United States of America? But also with this surprise and this tragedy, there comes an element of stagnancy. As I expressed before, it's not new, but it's this it's knowing that after this moment and in 2 weeks time, perhaps people are simply going to forget again. And Jelani Day, like Trayvon Martin, like Tamir Rice, like Breonna Taylor, like Toyin, like Eric Garner, has the risk of being forgotten and not talked about again unless the conversation is specifically and explicitly about Black Lives Matter or just relations between the minority communities and peace officers. It runs that risk. Why does this risk even exist? These are the questions we have to ask. It's our job to ask these questions. Why does this exist? Why do we forget about these people? Why do their stories stop being told? Why do these atrocities continue to happen? What is fueling these happenings? Is there a way to solve these issues? That's what we must do here. You might ask me now, what is here? My friend, here is the grassroots. This is what you call it within activism, the grassroots. That's where you and I are at right now on this podcast. You listening at home through Spreaker, through Apple Music, Spotify, or you watching on YouTube. That is where you're at right now with me. We're here together at the grassroots. This is where all the change not only happens, but it starts from and where it continues. Let me explain. The basic notions and ideas for political campaigns and revolutions and anything you see within the social spheres that's going to advocate for change usually comes from us here at the grassroots. And the best way I might be able to explain this is taking this plant here and showing you the roots. You can see, and for those of you who are listening and not watching the video, I apologize, but right now I'm showing our online viewers a bamboo plant where you can see the roots. This is where we're at. We're in the root. We're in the root. And eventually the root grows into the blade of grass, or into this case, the trunk, and then the blade. You know, we are this. We must come together in our communities, in our urban communities, in our suburb communities, and our rich and well-off communities. No matter where you're at, you have the potential and the capacity to organize people around you and make them care. Because ultimately, it's not really a matter of can we get this done or can we solve this issue? Because the answer always is going to be yes, we can get this done. And yes, we can solve this issue because there's no reason why innocent Black people ought to be killed every year and every day in the United States of America. And there's also no reason as to why there needs to be a chemical refinery down the street from Southern University killing and polluting this Black and brown community and also harming students within Cancer Alley. There's no reason any of this should exist. The only reason why these injustices are able to continue and perpetuate throughout the antiquity of time is because simply you all do not care. So those of you who are listening who do care, it is your responsibility, quite frankly, to organize people and make them care. And once you make them care, that's where you get your grassroots. At this grassroots, you form the revolution. You organize your community members. Once you're organized, you make a campaign. What are you going to do together as this organized group, moving in unison? You can phone bank, call your representatives. You can go door to door in your own community and let your neighbors know. And guess what? While you're doing that, you just added more people to your organized group. You do these things. You can have protests. You can have sit-ins. You can make a website and publish your things. You can make a podcast. But what you must do is make people care. And at the end of the day, make sure you still care. Because within this work that I call activism and trying to make a change in the community, it's very easy to get burnt out and to not care anymore, because the idea of I'm working in vain creeps into your mind. But you can't allow these weeds complicate your grassroots, because it's human to get tired, to get frustrated. But think not of yourself. What about the future generation? What if you were to have a kid? Do you want them to inherit this social condition? What if you don't have your own kid, but you got a nephew? Or what about just in 30 years, you still want to be able to sit at your house and enjoy your land and property that you worked hard to buy? But you can't, because climate change has now turned wherever you live into beachfront property and your house is now underwater. Or if you're on the west coast of North America, your house is burned down in a fire. So these are the things you must care about. Pick one, organize around it, and make a change. It's not as hard as it sounds. I would even argue that I've been able to make more change at the grassroots level than my peers of my same age who try to go into systems and corporations and entities and try to make a change. Because when you go into that realm, you have to follow rules and orders and do this and do that. And there's certain things you can't do. There's just certain things you can't do. And I don't mean to get off topic on Jelani Day, but this all goes back to our dear brother who just got murdered. You, as someone who cares for justice, cannot be afraid to be the black sheep. You can't be afraid to be ostracized. You can't be afraid to be excluded from conversations. You have to make your conversations. You make your spaces. You make your organizations. They don't want you to be a part of it. Make it for yourself. Because at the end of the day, we're doing good and seeking justice and correcting oppression. At the end of the day, the 771 Alliance, what's our mission? To educate and equip our community with the tools needed to fight racial and environmental injustice. So if I have to whistleblow and call someone of my peers out, oh well. What are they gonna do about it? Hurt me? Go ahead. But the truth has been spoken. But this is the issue I'm realizing the older I get. It's not everybody cares or has that same passion that I might have or some of my peers within the Southern University 771 Alliance have. We're all graduating soon. So if the fire, ceases to burn on campus, who's going to call out these injustices? Who's going to care? That makes it my chief duty now to make people care. So as in the case of Jelani Day, right now, this story is at risk of fizzling out and not being heard again. Similar to Sandy Hook, similar to the atrocity that was the presidency of Donald Trump, similar to the story of Trayvon Martin. So many disasters and iniquities that we simply choose to ignore like they didn't happen. Either we choose to ignore it or we just weren't privy to it when it happened. But let this serve as a wake-up call. If this is the only podcast by Studio 771 you'll ever listen to, let it be the one that tells you to get up off your butt and to organize. And let's say you can't organize because you have a job, you have kids, you have this, and the responsibilities of life are just too much for you to be active within the justice front. You have social media. You are able to retweet, to tweet. You are able to make a website, to have a blog. You are able still to, in your own household, make your household care. And now your husband, or your, how about put it this way, your significant other, your children, your dog, hey, they now all care about this. So now it's a virtue. Now justice is a virtue within the heart of the American families. How much change could we make if we actually cared and cared together? That's going to be it for this podcast. I wish the co-host would come on, but this is college, and that's just how it is. People are busy. It's midterm week, and last week as well. So before we hop off this podcast, we wish everybody at Southern University, I hope everybody do well on their midterms, and catch us next Friday. We'll talk about a different topic. Do I know what it is yet? No, because life comes at you so fast. But don't leave this podcast today and forget about Jelani Day and the tragedy of Jelani Day, and how we, as Black people primarily first, as Black people, can't sit by idly and watch these things happen. We can't be desensitized. We can't just see it on social media and go, wow, another Black person, and keep scrolling. Just another one. What's next? Oh, look, another person too. Oh, well, no. We are far too desensitized to this injustice, my friends. So I beg you, do not forget, excuse me. Do not forget, and do not delay. Do not delay in your passion, in your care, in your organizing. And with that, I thank you for tuning in to Studio 771. Again, thank you for bearing in mind with me. We have been, our office was taken from us. Even though we're an organization that does a lot of good for our community, it's okay. We keep it pushing, we evolve, and now we're going to hold it here in this room remotely. So thank you for listening. Come back with us next Friday. Have a great day. God bless you all.